All right.
Amanda, will you mute your phone?
My phone is muted. All right. Hello, friends and fiends. Welcome to Bugs Need Heroes, a podcast about insect superpowers. Each episode, an artist and an entomologist team up to illustrate the inspiring abilities of insects by creating bug-themed superheroes. I'm Amanda.
I'm Kelly.
Producer Derek and Desdemona and Rotunda are here today. Before we get started creating this bug-inspired hero, what's bugging you, Kelly?
Oh, well, my dairy cow isopod colony is exploded with children, and now I am a several generation grandmother and very proud of my little guys. Too many. I might have too many now. I need to move them.
Yeah.
To a
What
big
do you
tank.
do? Do you start putting them in little cups and handing them out to
To
undergrads?
undergrads.
Just like, here you go.
God, baby.
Here you go.
Maybe that's the next step. When you graduate, you can come to the lab and pick out a little scoopful,
Yeah.
a whole handful of dairy cow isopods for
You got an A on your
for
chest?
keeps. Have a
Here's
bug.
a dairy cow.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I'm happy they're happy and thriving. You know, people forget that bugs, they're not bugs, they're crustaceans, but that they are living and have sensory systems and nervous systems and deserve to be treated with care and respect. And just because they're tiny little guys doesn't mean we, ignore those needs. So I'm happy the colony is doing well, too well. What's bugging you, Amanda?
Dare say. At the risk of sounding like a curmudgeon right now, I love Halloween and I love Christmas. The race between the two to be my favorite holiday is always, the margin is paper thin at all times. That being said, I hate that they put Halloween out so early this year. And then yesterday at the store, I saw Christmas stuff. At time of recording, it's still August. Let's get this together, people. No, I can't stand it. My problem with it is this. By the time I'm thinking about decorating and I go to the store to get decorations for the holiday that's coming up, it's all been put away because they've all moved on to the next holiday. And so I go to the store on October 2nd and there's no Halloween decorations left because it's all Christmas now. And I hate it. Stop trying to slide time 3 months forward. So that's
Fair.
my curmudgeon rant. I'm so sorry.
It's okay to be a curmudgeon when they speed up our holidays like that.
And I get the Summerween thing. Like, I'm a girl who loves a Summerween, okay? Put a cute little ghost on a boat. She's living her best life. She's bright pink. I'm in. I want this. But Summerween is too close to Halloween, and all you've done is make it so I have 100 days of Halloween shopping and then 0 Halloween shopping when I actually am doing Halloween
When you're in the
shopping.
spirit.
Is it...
Yes.
Right. Is it me? Am I the problem that I'm not doing my Halloween shopping 100 days before Halloween?
Well,
But it's fine.
speaking of Halloween, I think today's
A
bug.
spooky bug. We have a guest as well who I assume is not spooky, is delightful actually. But the bugs, they are spooky. So our guest today is Floria Uy, who studies a spooky bug for us. Welcome to the show, Floria.
Thanks for having me.
So give us a little bit of your background. Have you always been a bug person or have you stumbled into the bug world?
Always, since I was a little kid. And funny enough, my mom was afraid of bugs when I was growing up, but she put away her fear because she realized how much I loved them. So we kind of
Aw.
worked through it together, and
Good
she really
mom.
motivated me. Yeah.
We found that to be true with any of our guestages. Are you a bug person? And they all have started very, very young. It's the bugs choose you. It's like
Absolutely.
you're one of us. Sorry.
Absolutely. So a little bit of background is that I am originally from Costa Rica in Central America. So I get lucky because there's so many bugs there to begin with that
Like a
it's
bug
easy. You're
paradise.
everyday life. Exactly. So I was exposed to bugs very early on. And then I decided after high school, since I was already into animals and especially bugs, to start a bachelor's degree in biology, focused in entomology. So I got to learn how to identify insects as part of my trajectory and a lot of their different stories underlying bugs, like their life histories, how do they grow, how do they evolve, what their behaviors are. And I liked it so much that I did a master's degree in parasitoids, which are insects that take control of other bugs to survive and they lay eggs. So they're more similar to the Alien movie. That's how I like to think about them. Then I did my PhD with social insects, so wasps overall, and now I've converged as an assistant professor at the University of Rochester. I've converged my love of social insects and the parasites that can take over control of them.
So cool. It's so, so cool. What a cool field. Yeah.
So are the wasps doing the taking over, or are the wasps being taken over?
That's a really good question. So we have social wasps that the most important thing for them is to build a group and to cooperate. And these are the ones that we can see in our eaves of our buildings. They build a nest. I work with paper wasps, which are the ones that have this fiber kind of paperish nests. And they have a parasite that takes control of them, which is another insect. And it's called Strepsiptera. That's the fancy name. But the more common name that we use is twisted wing insects. So twisted wing parasites take over the wasps, and they actually make them lose kind of their abilities in some sense, but hack into some of their other abilities.
What kind of insect is the twisted wing insect? What group?
It's a very rare order. You know how, for example, wasps, bees, and ants are Hymenoptera. Strepsiptera, it's its own group, its own order of insects. And what's really cool about this, and if you like creepy things, is that all 600, overall, approximately 600 species, they're all parasites of something.
Wow. Wow. So highly specialized.
Highly specialized to be parasites of insects overall.
Are they taxa parasite specific?
It depends on the group. The ones I studied, they seem to have evolved to parasitize wasps overall, but we have some others that they infect crickets, some other ones infect ants, springtails.
Oh, wow.
You name it.
Oh, springtails are so tiny. It's weird to think they have a parasite.
Yeah, leafhoppers too. So they have within different families, they have specialized to target different species. So this is a parasitic insect order where different species within these parasites can infect different species of insects, and they're becoming specialized.
Yeah, they must be absolutely weensy to be a parasite of something else that's tiny.
Exactly.
Yeah, how large are we talking on average?
They're pretty tiny. Sometimes, and we'll get into this in a second if we have the chance, but actually you could compare one of these male parasites to the size of a fruit fly, maybe smaller.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe even smaller.
Wow.
And the larvae are like specks. The parasite larvae are like specks of dirt.
Wow.
They're tiny.
That's so cool. Amanda's making a horrified face already.
Dun. Okay, so you got to take over something else. You're weensy. I'm just thinking about what the process is to get in there, and I don't think there's any friendly way. That's where my brain was going next, is how do they get in there to parasitoid someone's wasp?
Well, I mean, that's exactly, to use the theme of the wonderful podcast you've invited me, that's what's been bugging me. I want to understand how they hack, because the way I look at it is they're hackers. They have managed to use the machinery of another insect for their own survival. So we have a lot of knowledge from wonderful colleagues and some of our studies where we know what they can manipulate. They can manipulate the behavior, and I can explain a little bit of that in a second. They also manipulate their physiology. If their host, usually they're not allowed to reproduce because reproduction is very expensive, so they want to stop reproduction for the host. But we wanted to figure out, how are they controlling it? Is it certain genes? What are the molecular mechanisms? How is it hormones? How do they go and become hackers? The same way somebody takes over a software or somebody has a computer, how do you take over physiology, brain, and behavior of another insect? That's exactly what my lab group is aiming to study right now.
So, what are the key mechanisms then for this takeover?
Well, I hope to be able to answer that question someday, maybe by the time I retire. but we have a couple of key things that we're working on. Now we know that they can take over some neural genes, so genes that are important for brain in many different ways, for cognition, for being able to manipulate behavior. We also know that there's genes associated to reproduction because they need to stop reproduction of the host. We have some clues about hormones. And the same way that we have neurotransmitters and we always hear about dopamine and serotonin and all these other, biogenic amines, the same way that humans, we hear about them, we think that these neuromodulators are being hacked. So if the parasite can access that, then you can control and create cascading effects that will target all the key things that the parasite needs to manipulate.
And what other behaviors aside from reproduction do they seem to have the ability to manipulate?
Oh, so this is a very good question. So let me start by saying that this is one of the craziest and most extreme cases of parasitism
I already
in the
love
animal
it.
kingdom. So they are, and one of the most important things is they have something that we call sexual dimorphism, which means that males and females are extremely different. Both of them start out as parasites and inside a host. So they lodge in the abdominal cavity. And we can talk a little bit about how they get there. But the important thing here is that they both develop, and male parasites need a host short term just to develop. And then they emerge, and they're these beautiful adults that you would confuse them with a fruit fly if you just look at them. But the females remain as parasites their entire life, and they have a reduced body plan. They look like a larva, and they stay that way. So one of the key things that the parasite needs to do is to manipulate for the needs so a male can emerge, but then how does the male parasite find the female parasite to mate? So you have to hack into the behavior, and the wasps that are supposed to be social and they're supposed to be workers, they are never workers in their host colony. We think that they trick other workers to feed them, like they're queens. And then when they're well fed, because you have a very nice host that's well fed and then overall healthy enough to be able to do this, you manipulate them to leave their natal colony and get in these aggregations so the male parasite can find the female parasite and mate.
Oh, wow.
So it's very complex what they have to do. Imagine everything that you have to hack into, right? Vision, olfaction, cognition, physiology, and to be able to get male females to find each other. But here's the kicker. When a male and a female parasite find each other, the male is a free living adult. He can fly, he lives for a little bit, but the female parasite is extruding. So it's kind of popping out of one of the cavities in the host. They mate with something called traumatic insemination, which pretty means that the male injects sperm into the female's cephalothorax, which is a fancy way of saying that the head and the thorax are fused. So it's like an injection of sperm.
Amanda?
Sorry, I'm only familiar with this because of an Isabella Rossellini series she did about all the different way animals make new animals, as it were.
Yeah.
And she has a whole one where she does like a sword fight with herself because she's a slug. So I know about it because I think slugs will sometimes do it too, where they just
bed bugs. Bed bugs also do.
Bed bugs also do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's wild to me that that's the system. That they're like, look, actually, any sort of copulation, as it were. Not necessary. We're gonna get rid of any organs to do with that. We're going straight to just stabbing the necessary material directly into you.
Exactly. But
Wild.
imagine how you have to reprogram someone who's social, because social insects have evolved to be social. You put an ant on its own and it'll die. A wasp can't handle, a social wasp can't do things on her own. You ultimately have to reprogram, hack into these individuals. So not only they stop being social, but they have to have all this behavior, right? Where they use the senses they would use for their normal lifestyles to even get away and to facilitate the mating of the parasites. And then the interesting thing is that after the parasites mate, the female parasite is gravid now, so she's going to have a lot of baby parasites in her, and she makes her wasp host over winter, same way as a queen would. So in social insects, workers die.
Yeah, especially males.
Very quickly. Males die, and
we're out of here.
And female workers, they die in temperate zones right around this time. They start to die off, right? But the interesting thing is that the parasite can extend the lifespan of its host. So a worker that's supposed to live just a few weeks will live about a year and a half, similarly to.
Do we know how? What's happening there? Is that what you're studying?
That's what we're trying to figure out, but we think it's caste related. So another interesting part of the story is that these zombie wasps, females have castes, and they're simple castes. They're very different from some ants and others. They have very sophisticated and different sizes of castes, and they all do different work. Wasps usually have workers and the reproductive, right? AKA the queen. The interesting thing here is that the workers will only live for a short time, and we think that longevity and caste is coupled. So the long-lived ones are the reproductives, and the short-lived ones are the workers because they're disposable. But the parasite decouples. It makes somebody long-lived, but hinders reproduction. So that means that it's able to hack into genes associated to lifespan and to caste. And that should be the way that it is able to ultimately reprogram an individual to become long-lived, to behave a different way, to survive, to deal with the winter.
That's incredible.
Yeah, because that kind of implies that the genes to become queen, because with, as my understanding, my my little, not an entomologist self, where like you feed the larval stage the honey, or in bees it's the special queen jelly, right? And you're going to become a queen. Yeah. I assumed that at some point you aged out of being able to receive that information to become reproductive, right? But this kind of implies that the genes that were turned off, let's say, or not turned on, still exist within the wasp and can get turned on by this parasitoid that's like, just kidding, you're going to get the lifespan of a queen right now. Click. It's on now.
Exactly.
That's wild. that's crazy.
And that's exactly what we think is happening. So wasps get fed a combination of sugar from flowery solutions, right? From flowers, floral resources, but they also get fed caterpillars. But future queens, when they're larvae, they usually get fed more protein or maybe higher quality food, and workers get fed more carbohydrates. That's sort of what the research is telling us. So one of the things we're trying to investigate is if you're an infected larva, right? You have your parasite, so you're growing, but your parasite's also growing, so you're synchronously doing the developing process together. If somehow they're tricking workers to feed them the best quality food that would facilitate the genes that are more related to being a queen to turn on, right? To be differentially expressed. That's kind of the jargony way of talking about, how genes.
So when is the wasp getting infected? It's getting infected when it's still a soft little gooey guy, or is it getting infected when it's already a grown wasp?
When they're brood. So when they're larvae, and the paper wasps we work with are open combs. They're not close, like those balls that you see in yellow jackets, so it's open. And that's when we know, and here's where the story gets wild. What we think is that an infected wasp that has a gravid parasite ready to deposit the parasitic larva kind of takes it like it's an Uber, grabs the wasp and makes it find nests that are unattended. They're not guarded by other wasps because they're out and about getting food and material to build a nest. And then they deposit these larvae, and then the larvae go inside the brood. So the larvae of wasps that are developing. And if they are undetected, because sometimes social insects have hygienic behavior, where if a larva seems off, it seems sick or something's wrong about it, they usually remove it for the nest. But the idea is that if it's undetected, then now we have a bunch of infected larvae that can manipulate, potentially, that's one of our ideas, the workers to say, I'm a queen, feed me like I'm a future queen.
That's
I'm a
amazing.
developing queen.
That's a well.
A lot of bugs doing this strategy of like tricking bees and wasps into like, I'm just a queen. You want to take care of me too? Because we saw that with the death head hawk moth as well. It was like, I'm just a queen. You don't want to kick me out of the nest. Hee hee. Like,
Yeah,
apparently
exactly.
the bees and the wasps have it figured out, and all the other bugs are like, how do I get in there? How do I get in there and live the good life?
There are different ways to do this, but it seems like they have been able to figure it out pretty well in wasps and some bees too.
I was looking at your paper from in Nature from last year, Floria, where you guys have the first genome of these little dudes, and I noticed it's tiny. So it's 72 megabases, which compared to I study mosquitoes or did study mosquitoes for my PhD, and that's about 1.2 gigabase. So a huge difference in size, and it seems like a lot of parasitoids have teeny tiny genomes. And is that what one? If I don't know if you know if why would that be? And part of it is it to not be creating all of these proteins that might set off an immunoresponse? Is it just like a, or because the lifespan is so dependent on living in something else, maybe it doesn't have to have a huge.
It doesn't have to be complicated because it's latched onto someone else's complicated system.
Yeah. What? So
Yeah.
why is that? If you know.
So actually, this paper from the Nature group, it's in Scientific Reports, actually did give us some hints about that. So one of the long-standing hypotheses is that parasitic individuals, and they have found some of this in plants, too, in parasitic plants, and in a couple of other groups, I think in some worms, I can't remember if they're cestodes or nematomorphs, but some other parasitic worms, is that perhaps genomes get smaller because the parasites become more dependent on the host machinery, including for
Okay.
producing proteins and others. So, but one of the conundrums is that although genomes are becoming small, they have things like repetitive elements, which are very complicated,
Yeah.
you
Oh
know,
yeah.
parts of the genome that we're just figuring out what they are. And we even call them selfish genetic elements. They have a lot of those.
Huh.
And usually small genomes can't have those.
Yeah.
So there seems to be a whole thing that these genomes, again, this is a hypothesis, but we're finding more evidence in different groups, including in our paper, is that perhaps a small genome is because you might be losing some gene families that the host instead can provide for you. So if you manipulate the host to do things for you, you might not need the machinery yourself. So I don't know if that answers
Yes,
your
it
question.
does. No, it's amazing how simplified things become. Nature abhors doing excess work. So if you can do the least amount of work possible, it makes total sense. I didn't realize they had so many transposable elements. That's
Yeah,
really bizarre for a
a lot
small
of
genome.
repetitive elements.
Or
Yeah,
repetitive, rather.
overall.
Yeah. Mosquito genomes are full of repetitive elements, like a lot. But they're big genomes
Yeah,
in comparison.
exactly.
So, wow.
Do you offhand know what size a human genome is?
Oh,
Just for
I
comparison.
don't know.
Big.
I have no idea.
Many. More than 12.
I'm trying to remember, and the numbers escape right now because I've been focusing on invertebrates.
Yeah, we're looking at bugs for so long.
But plant,
3.4 gigabases, I think, is the human genome.
yeah,
So pretty large in comparison.
yeah, yeah. And plants and frogs have even larger genomes,
Mm.
which is very interesting,
Really?
right? Yep.
What are frogs
Many
doing?
humans.
Frogs are crazy. Frogs are nuts. Every time I think about frogs, I'm like, how does he do it? Like the insect goes through these metamorphoses, but the frog metamorphosis also confounds me. Starts as one thing, ends as another thing. Frogs.
Honorary bug? Maybe.
Honorary bug? I think if we got him like a little suit of armor, he could become a bug. Because the rules are crunchy on the outside, gooey on the inside. And a toad is trying to get there. He's trying to be crunchy. Maybe that's the secret to the whole thing. A toad wants to be a bug.
Oh, what I had also just thinking about, I don't know what made me think about this when you're talking about frogs. Uh, the eyes, so these insects don't have compound eyes. Is that correct? They have
They,
something that's different?
they're slightly different, but they still have photoreceptors, and we actually call them raspberry eyes just because the shape of their eyes are these very small lenses that kind of look raspberry like the little seeds. But the interesting thing here is that these the males, which are the ones that have the eyes, and the females don't even have eyes,
Oh,
uh,
what a life.
they they actually can see ultraviolet.
Oh,
So
really?
they and one cool fact is that there's several papers and they have designed a camera based on the eyes of twisted wing insects.
Oh,
That's my
wow.
understanding.
That's really
Because their
cool.
vision, because they're incredibly good visual uh, adaptations that they've been able to pretty much implement for designing cameras and lenses.
That is That is so neat. I love when technology is based on real organisms. We have so much to learn from the natural world and how to create, opportunities for us with tech, but oh, that's very cool. So they have really good why is ultraviolet light then so important to these little males?
Well, here's another interesting plot twist about these
Keep
parasites.
them coming.
So I just mentioned how they are one of the most extreme cases, right? Not only the dimorphism, so their body plans are completely different, but males, when they emerge as adults, they can live up to 5 hours. That's all the time they
Wow.
have to find a female. So it makes sense to design, to evolve a really good visual system to be able to find the females. And the females, there's just a little part of it sticking out of its host to be able to mate. So if they can manipulate their host to be in proximity, that facilitates it, but then they need really good visual signals to detect females. So the females do this position, they exude pheromones and they plank, but at the same time, the male has to develop unique vision, and we think ultraviolet would help to be able to navigate the environment and find the females that it needs. So the males have crazy good vision, live only for 5 hours. So imagine you're a male, you emerge and you have 3 to 5 hours to find the female, and then you're dead. And a female will live a year and a half. So they're also extreme
Wow.
in their
Yeah.
lifespan, right? Very short lived versus very long lived.
Wow, that's 5 hours to complete your whole mission in life basically is such a tiny window. Do we know how at all how successful they are? Like how many males, what percentage of males actually find females in time?
We actually have tried to mate them successfully in the lab for the first, this is our second time doing it. So we have some ideas. We think that their strength is in numbers.
Hmm.
We found this amazing paper, 100-year-old paper by a female scientist
Oh, cool.
that proposed that 75% of the species of twisted wing insects is males, 75% of the population, and only 25 are females. So that way, if they have big numbers of males, there some of them are going to be able to
Someone's
be
gonna find a
successful.
lady. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, usually most of the time in many insect populations, it's kind of a 50-50. So a
hmm yeah,
75-25 is pretty drastic.
exactly. But it makes sense because they live for so little
Yeah.
that you need to produce a lot of them to make sure that they're successful. We did find in the lab that sometimes they do find the females, and we built this really fun cage that's tiny. It kind of looks like a volleyball court. So the wasp hosts are separate so they don't fight with each other, and the male pops out and can find the female. Sometimes it took them a little bit to find them, but we don't know if the environment that we had wasn't giving the right
Mm.
visual cues, and maybe with the ultraviolet we were confusing them or not. We're not sure. But out of, I would say, at least half of them were able to find the female and try to mate with them. So that kind of gives us at least a little bit of evidence
Mhm.
to support that perhaps it is that if you produce a lot of males and they're so short lived, some of them might be able to make it and find the female.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's good odds at that end. It's so cool you were able to get them to mate in the lab. It can be really hard to get
Yeah,
reproduction in the lab for lots of bugs.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's admirable. Nice.
We're persistent and we love this group, and we love and we encourage everyone to go to the field and observe bugs. And one of my favorite things was when you find an infected female, an infected wasp, and you're like, oh my goodness. And we've been finding new populations of them, and it's a percentage of the wasps that are infected. But some of the questions, like what that you have been asking me, like the mechanisms, we kind of need to have them in a lab setting,
Yeah.
right? Where we can look at gene expression, and a couple of other things. We really need to have a stock in the lab. And we can actually experimentally infect now.
Oh,
So we
cool.
milk the talk about weird, but we can kind of milk and stimulate the mama parasites. And using a single hair paintbrush, we can actually transfer into wasp larvae and have our own zombie wasps in the lab.
Oh my God, that's so cool. Flora, I want to come hang out in your lab. That is
Come
amazing.
hang out anytime. We'd love to have you.
You're at Rochester University.
Mhm,
So these little parasites you're finding are in New York. They're just around.
mhm. They're local. We've been very lucky that in Western New York, there are several key populations that we know, at least that 100-year-old paper and a couple of other papers that are 20, 30 years old, have described how these populations have been infected for a long time. And that also we find other populations where the parasites haven't, we don't know if they haven't made it or they haven't been as successful. Either we find them in those populations or we don't find them, or they're in very small numbers. So the other thing we've been wanting to study is the immune system of the
Mm,
host, because the way we've been telling the story so far is that the parasite wins, right? But it is an arms race. So the host is developing uh, adaptations to counteract the parasite. One is to detect them, right? So workers in a wasp colony can patrol and inspect if the brood is looking good or not and destroy it, right? That's a way to detect parasites and get rid of them. And the other thing is the immune system of the
yeah.
host can also destroy them like any other immune system, right? So one of the interesting things is when we go to nature, and that's our favorite thing actually, and we find wasps, if they're infected, are they infected in the long term? Sometimes we see that a population has more parasites one year and it doesn't another year. We're trying to figure out how that works right
So
now.
sometimes I would imagine stress, right? Stress on the colony would make them a little easier to penetrate, as it were. Have you
Exactly.
found any wasps that are eliciting an immune response at all while infected?
Yeah. Yes, so a lot of insects and maybe a lot of bugs, maybe you have addressed this in previous episodes, but they do have encapsulation responses. So this is the equivalent of white blood cells finding and destroying something that's foreign, a pathogen or a parasite, and that's the immune response of individuals. So we have seen cases where the parasite is detected by the immune system and it's destroyed, and it leaves this kind of patch of dark tissue inside the larva, so we can actually see that this parasite wasn't successful. It was
Oh,
caught,
cool.
right? So it is really an arms race. We kind of compare it to the Red Queen hypothesis, which is one of the cool things, right? The Alice in Wonderland, you're running to stay in place. So parasites keep you on your toes. And in a way, they're also making your immune system develop ways, right? To destroy and detect something that could be attacking you.
Wow. It's parasites in general are just a fascinating. It's like you said, the arms race. The arms race is just constantly going. I think generally we think about that in response to predator prey, but this is the same thing, right? It's the exact same
Exactly.
thing, just a little creepier, which we love.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Amanda, will you take a look at the Discord? I've dropped some
Oh,
pictures so you
sorry.
kind of know what they look like.
Oh yeah, Amanda has not previously checked out photos.
Oh. Okay, so for other people listening, there's a wasp here, and then the armor plating of the thorax. There's like wedged in between the plates. It's just the
You mean
Well,
abdomen?
Oh,
it's
I'm
the
sorry.
abdomen. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I misspoke. That's my bad. So in between the plates of the abdomen is all you can see is like this the littlest hint of something else wedged in there, the little booty of another bug shoved in.
Well, actually, you got it almost 100% right, but
Okay.
it's not the booty, it's actually the head capsule because that's
Oh.
what's sticking out. It depends. If it's an adult female parasite, that's exactly what's popping out, and that's what the male needs to mate with. If it's a pupa and it's kind of this bump that's covered,
Yeah.
then it is still that part, but it's being protected, right? Because it's still baking inside the host, to
This
say it in a
can't be
creepy way.
comfortable for the infected creature. It's like sticking out from between what is normally a flush body part to the next body part. And then there's something
Well,
crammed in
Amanda, I
between.
think maybe you missed where Floria explained the traumatic insemination happens
Oh
in
no,
the in the head.
I do want to come back to, so not only because yeah, when it was the booty buns, that was bad enough that they were getting stabbed by the baby making with a stabbing that way, but a stab to the head, that just seems disrespectful. That
And
just
you know,
seems rude.
and you know what's really interesting? You just asked a really, really good question. It's how can they go about when you're carrying this? I call
Yeah.
it, this kind of like alien inside of you. But interestingly, they feed, they fly, they, and we have counted, this is going to blow your mind. Our record is, just take a guess how many parasites inside one
Oh,
abdomen.
Oh no.
okay. I assume that the larval stage is quite small, so I think
No,
you
they
could
get
probably.
really big. They're
Oh
pretty big.
no! Oh no! Okay. I mean, to still be able to do stuff, I would say at most I'd expect 8 before the creature just simply dies because it cannot support this many parasites.
Our record is 16 and it was alive.
Oh boy.
No.
We haven't even been able to figure out how that is. But here's another interesting thing and how these parasites are incredibly sophisticated hackers. And we don't have an answer to this yet. But it seems that when you're harboring male parasites, there's several from 1 to 3 or 4. That's kind of the average. And usually, when it's a female parasite that needs a long term host, right, and she needs to be protected to live for a year and a half, it's usually 1 or 2 females. And we don't know exactly how they sort that out because when they get dropped off and they have to infect their hosts, somehow, and once in a while, you get weird combinations where it's a female parasite and a male parasite inside, and this is a conflict for the parasites because when the male comes out, it leaves a giant hole inside of its host and it usually dies, and the parasite wants to take care of the host so it lives so it can manipulate it, right, in the long run, and then be able to disperse its baby. So Lots of stuff to study. I
Wow.
encourage a lot of people, and if anybody's interested in joining us and studying, we need a lot of help because there's a lot of questions still to be answered.
The minute you answer one question, you've got 10 more that pop up
Exactly.
because the answer is probably going to be crazy. And you,
Exactly.
yeah, I hadn't even thought about multiple parasites in one host. What that must do to the body is, man, yeah, how are they functioning? Like how are they
Like
digesting? Where's the
how much of
room?
their resources are being poured directly into these parasites, especially if they have more than one.
Well, this is exactly why we think that two of the most energetically expensive things for any organism, any animal, to be able to overcome every day is the brain is energetically very expensive and the reproductive system is. So if you hinder the reproductive system, you could reallocate energy towards the parasite. And if you keep enough of the brain, and this is why I think these parasites are very cool hackers. We know, for example, now that the video game and the show The Last of Us has become so popular, we know these are the ultimate zombies where they just have a purpose, right? These are usually parasites of parasitic fungus that infects wasps and well, ants is the most famous one, but they infect some wasps and either other organisms. And the idea is to just ultimately get them to a point where the fungus can disperse, right? Its spores and its reproductive its reproduction overall. But our parasites or zombies are different because you have to maintain some cognition
Yeah.
to be able to still stay alive for a long time. So these are zombies, and we just had a paper in which we proposed that they're compromised minds because they lose some cognitive skills, but they still need to be enough to be able to eat because the parasite needs to survive to be able to get away if there's danger so the wasp doesn't get eaten by something else. And we still don't know very well how they decide and tweak, okay, we still need to keep these functions, but these other ones, we're going to shut them off in the host.
It's amazing. Um, do we have other? So you talked about the fungus, the cordyceps fungus is comparable. Are there other insect species that function in similar ways to these guys? Like, have you had to do comparisons at all?
Yeah, so one of the most famous cases, and I think you had done some work on this before in your episodes, are parasitoids. So parasitoids are the individuals that they develop inside a host, and then they eventually emerge. And usually there's two kinds. One where they kind of just like freeze their host in a way. Kind of reminds me of when Han Solo got frozen, still alive, but it's
Oh,
enough
the
to keep
carbonite.
them.
Yeah.
Exactly, enough to just keep it alive, and then a bunch of either little wasps or whatever, there's some flies that do this too, they emerge, and other ones that they need to still manipulate their host. So again, their host can eat, it can get away, so it doesn't get eaten, etc. So those are some examples. Another one that I really love, and there is a difference between parasitoids and parasites, is there is this cestode, a type of worm that infects acorn ants. And some colleagues in Germany study this. And what's really crazy is that these ants are it's an intermediate host, but the big goal is for birds to be able to eat ants that are infected. And that is the final host. So that
So
requires sometimes you have parasites where insects can serve as secondary, I'm sorry, intermediate, that's what I meant, intermediate hosts. So that's a whole other different kind of thing. So we have different kinds, right? We have parasitoids, which the ultimate thing is to grow inside another organism and produce as much offspring. We have parasites, many parasites. The definition of parasites that you don't really kill your host, right? You just keep it alive for whatever the parasite needs, right? And then we have pathogens too. So we have all these different need combinations, and different insects and other organisms have found ways to really reprogram and target other individuals.
It's amazing. So this machinery is happening all over the insect kingdom, and just the way this works. There's so many out there, Amanda. Many.
You can never
Well,
trust that you're really dealing with that bug. You might be dealing with that bug's bug.
The bugs bug.
well, Amanda mentioned Halloween, how it's one of her favorites, and I think this is a perfect topic to get us in the mood for Halloween for
It
sure.
is. Wow. And so you did say they kind of, males at least, look a little bit like fruit flies. What what other order? What order is this order closely related to? Does it have a sister?
Yes, so that has been one of the biggest questions. So these twisted wing insects are some of the weirdest insects that I already kind of have talked a little bit about many different things that make them unique. They're all parasites. The entire group is parasitic. They have the weird different morphs between males and females, and they live very different lifespans and anything you name it, the way they reproduce. That made it really hard, even with modern tools, to figure out who are its closest relatives, how did it evolve. In fact, let's remember that the scientific name of the order is called Strepsiptera, right, for the twisted wing insects. Until 2012, the Strepsiptera problem of where they were placed within all the bugs lineages wasn't resolved. It wasn't until 2012. And guess who's the closest extant relative, right? The one that's living. We don't know if there's fossils that were more
Yeah.
closely related or not. Beetles. Beetles are its closest
Beetles.
relatives.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
I would not have guessed beetles at all. They're morphologically so different. I guess other than maybe
Yeah.
that grub-like female form, but
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what the grubby female made me think of the cochineal bug that makes the red dye, because they were so dimorphic as well, where like the female was basically just like a blob that lived on the cactus, and the male was the one who was like a bug, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought at first. So I guess that's also, I think that's also a beetle technically. So maybe there's some sort of twisty thing happening there.
Well, I think that's what made it so difficult by morphology, just the way that they looked and, their larval development. What did it look like? It turns out, and the big debate was, were they closer to Diptera, that is flies, because they also have one pair of wings and they have the halteres. So these are the modified structures that also flies have, but they have them backwards. So flies have the wings and then the halteres, right, which are their gyroscopes, and they help them fly. But twisted wing insects have first the halteres and then just the males, right, and
yeah.
then the wings. So they thought that the debate was, are they closer because of this similarity? But it turns out that some beetle larvae are also very similar in shape as the twisted wing insect larva, and there's also some parasitic beetles.
Huh.
So it seems that when they did more fine-tuned genomic analyses, now that we have the technology, genetic and genomic resources, they are consistently coming off as more closely related to beetles.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think that also kind of makes sense when we think about the forewing adaptation, because many beetles, when the wing structure is I don't know, different, they have that harder outer casing, and it's just on the forewing. So I guess, is more likely for the forewing to have a different morphological adaptation than in flies, where the
Yeah,
halteres are the hind wings. It's pretty cool.
exactly. Yeah, it's pretty unique. It's fascinated me how, I mean, all bugs are amazing, let's face it.
Yeah.
But there is something about some of these unique groups that they have sort of found a way to be incredibly incredibly distinct, and I think that's one of the beauties of insects, that they all have very different adaptations, and um, there's quite some similarities. So we can also have convergence where, some of them have similar traits, but they have evolved independently and they work perfectly. But yeah, some of the most extreme cases of anything that you can name are bugs.
Definitely bugs. Yeah. How,
Yeah.
how did you end up sort of choosing this group as your research focus?
Well, I was very lucky to come across. I had a hankering when I started my lab at the University of Rochester. I knew I wanted to work with insects. I had worked with the social aspect. I had worked independently with parasitoids, with wasps that were parasitoids of leaf hoppers. But I wanted to combine both social and how this plasticity that social insects have, right, where they can become a queen or a worker, if that is what the parasite hacks into and takes advantage. So I kind of combined both of loves, and it turns out that we had these parasites locally. So they also provided a great opportunity to get undergraduate researchers involved, for us to go in the field, to have the combination of field and lab. Our department is also very good with genetics and genomics. So I started to learn a lot of these techniques because colleagues were very generous. But I do have to say that one of the things that inspired me the most is that there's this researcher, Laura Beani, and we have two other great collaborators, Fabio Manfredini and Federico Cappa, that have worked on a parallel system. So it's the same genus of wasps, same genus of parasite, but in Europe. And they
Oh,
did a lot of the groundbreaking work in physiology and in behavior. So now we're able to tackle the genetics, genomics, hormonal part based on a lot of the work that they did. So, and they were very, very gracious to kind of train me in some of this work. And then I was able to bring it to my lab and establish it there with the local system. So now we have two parallel
oh, that's cool.
systems of twisted wing insects that we can compare and contrast.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like even just maybe a decade or two ago, science was much more competitive. And now I feel like it's more collaborative, at least since, in the past few decades, which is wonderful. I think we should all be collaborating, not fighting each other for the publications. We learn more that way.
Absolutely. That is my feeling too. And people are very into sharing knowledge and establishing collaborations. And that also provides opportunities for budding entomologists, pun intended, for to get their love for insects started early on, right? Since we've had even middle school students, high school students are involved in different labs now.
Awesome.
They sometimes they don't even have to wait until college. So uh, I'm really excited about how many more people are becoming aware how important insects
Hmm.
are, even if the ones that may come off as creepy or weird, but they all have a very important function. And it's nice to see that collaborative effort, right now.
Yeah, definitely. And the bugs could use our help. They could, they need us. They really need us right now to care and to give them a little focus.
Exactly. And even parasites have their own role.
Hmm.
They keep our immune system on our toes. They actually control populations of their hosts so they don't get out of control too. They have ecosystem services in some ways which haven't been as explored, even though most of the time they get a bad rap, right? But there are some functions to them. They kind of do keep us on our
So
toes.
it's balance, right? Everything in nature is a very delicate balance, and you can't pull one piece of the machine out without causing a problem. And they're just part of the machine, part of the big piece. So
Exactly. They have their own role, right, in our ecosystems. Yeah.
as someone who had studied mosquitoes for a long time, and I constantly got the question, can we just kill them all? And my answer is no. Yeah, like you probably have to defend these little guys when you're talking about them sometimes.
Yeah, It's interesting because there is something about zombies, right? That it's intriguing. So in some ways, I have the advantage of that, but in other ways, I do get asked exactly the same question you get asked as mosquitoes. Why do we even need these things,
Hmm.
right? But mosquitoes, I mean, you're the expert, but mosquitoes, there's so many organisms that feed off mosquitoes too that
Hmm.
if we took them away, there wouldn't be enough food for certain species too. So
And they're
they all
pollinators,
have their
right? So,
exactly, exactly. So there's all these functions of all these, um, insects. They're all important. Even again, the weirdos, if we want to call them that way.
well, considering your guys are local, if we've got some amateur entomologists out there, how would they even find them?
Oh, well, the easiest way to find them is right now. So if you are in a place where in the temperate zone and goldenrod, that plant is happening right now, it's just starting out. That plant with yellow flowers, actually the species I study that infects the social wasps, the wasps come and feed off. It's some of the last resources. They're getting ready, right? The future queens, but the ones that are infected also need to eat. And it turns out that's where the male wasps will try to intercept females to mate too.
Oh,
So this is a great hotspot to find the infected ones. And when you see one, you'll know for sure because you see all these bumps sticking out of the abdomen, right? So it's very noticeable. And sometimes you'll see even a hole where the male parasite already came out of. The host won't live that much longer, but I would say this time of the year when the goldenrod is about to pop out, if you grab a net and just if you're handling wasps, you do want to wear some good gloves, of course, right? Because they do sting. Um, you'll be able to find them. It's a good chance. And it's a little bit of a needle in a haystack, but when you find one, there's a lot more.
now I'm going to keep an eye out next time I see some
Yeah.
goldenrod. I want to see this.
Check the goldenrod. This is a fantastic time to find them. And if you check on iNaturalist, the observations for twisted wing insects with paper wasps, a lot of them are off from goldenrod because I think this is exactly where the parasites are also mating, right? At the late comers in some cases, or at least this is where male and female wasps get ready to have babies,
Wow.
So it's a good place to spot them.
Well, I'm glad we're at that time of year. So when the episode, I think the episode will come out and they'll still be around. I'm
Oh
definitely going
yeah,
to
and the
look this
goldenrod.
weekend.
Yeah, at least here in Western New York, it's just starting.
Oh,
And
okay.
it'll be around until I would say sometimes we get lucky and even
Oh,
mid-October. So there's some time.
nice. Yeah, this episode should come out in about 2 weeks. So all of
That'll be the
our
perfect
listeners
time.
out there, get out there and check out the goldenrod.
Yeah.
Find some little
And
guys.
actually, we're thinking of putting together an actual project on iNaturalist that we want to call zombie hunters
Mm.
for these twisted wing parasites. So then people can contact us, they can report their observations, they can contact us so we can start to understand where they're distributed.
Oh,
And
cool.
this is a neat way to get involved in some bug research if people are interested.
If you get that
Uh,
set up, send us a link and we'll put it in the show notes. And even retroactively, we can put it in the show notes for you.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yes,
Yeah.
I will do.
so perhaps somewhat dangerously, do you think there's any applications to learning how to hack another system or your own system? Like, I, I know that there's this thing called biohackers where they're trying to
Mhm.
improve the human body either by incorporating technology or whatever. And I know that a lot of it is like, how long can I live? And hearing you talk about oh, she went from living a couple weeks to living a full 18 months. My mind goes straight to oh, the biohackers are going to love this. They're going to want to figure out the become a super long-lived gene within humans. Do you think there's any application towards humans with the biohacking twisted wing?
Well,
Or
Amanda, I think you hit the spot. One of the things that we're incredibly interested in I think one of the things when I talk about bugs, and I can talk about bugs all day, one of the things that people get the most surprised about is how we have very similar versions of genes that we share with insects. And there's a lot of similarities. So, by studying genes in insects that are associated with longevity and lifespan and health, for example, which is all the things, excuse me, that our parasite is tackling, right? Trying to manipulate, we can identify genes that are similar in humans. So they give us insights into lifespan, longevity, quality of life, because an interesting thing that I haven't mentioned is that we get some interesting signatures of maybe neurodegeneration. So the infected wasps are living longer, but we think their quality of life is less, right? So we're hitting several things that are very relevant topics. In humans, we want to live longer. Well, some of us, I don't know about me specifically, but in general, humans want to live long, healthy lives. But is there a trade-off? And how do we age gracefully in a way where we're also healthy? So by studying someone that extends the lifespan of its host and yet has similar somewhat genes to humans, we can start to associate signatures of aging that can go and be more general than only bugs. They could have some applications.
Right. It's not worth it to live to be 150 if you're constantly scared and parasites are getting stabbed in the head inside of you. No, it doesn't sound worth it to me. No thanks.
But I think the short answer is that if we can understand what the parasite packs into these traits, like lifespan and health, age, all these different things, we can understand a lot even about aging in other organisms, including humans too.
That's so cool. Yeah. See, everyone, bugs are applicable to people. We have an extra reason to love them. So
it's wild. And I wonder, we've talked about toxoplasmosis in humans, which is the cat
scratch fever
bacteria. Yeah, cat scratch fever. They're like, I love cats. Cats are the best. And I wonder if there's other things. I know there's a lot of talk about gut health in the health sphere right now, and how it's possible humans are just walking around being controlled by the desires of our gut biome. So I just find these things very interesting. What are we being influenced by that we just don't even know we're being influenced by? And it might be bugs inside of you.
Could be bugs.
Halloween. So I did do a quick little sketch. So last week, which should correspond with our release schedule, we did a mud dauber wasp. So I used the character we did for mud dauber, and here she is getting hacked by the twisted wing, who's sprung up unexpectedly out of nowhere to hack her brains. I gave him the ever important hacker sweatshirt that they all seem to wear, the same sweatshirt. The hoodie. They're always in their little basements hacking away. And then I wanted to hide the face to make them a mysterious hacker. Like I said, we used last week's mud dauber, and unfortunately she's about to go do his bidding. Upsetting.
Very cool.
I don't know what other powers he would have other than flight and biohacking, but he doesn't seem like a nice guy, so he's a villain in this one.
Was there anything else, Floria, that you wanted to cover about this incredible group of bugs?
I would say that anyone that's interested in bugs, just go out there and observe. We can all be scientists in our own way. We can observe, we can just be very aware of how insects are so important in different ways, just by planting the right, resources for pollinators, or trying to avoid certain harmful insecticides and all kinds of things. Anybody could be an entomologist. Yes. There's different ways of doing that. So I think it's important. And those of you that are into bugs, don't lose that energy, because when we get into it, they're just addictive. They're so much fun. So I encourage everyone to be an entomologist.
Remember that the difference between goofing off and science is writing down the result. That's it. That's the only difference. No, Mom, I'm doing science right now. I have to put my brother on this giant slingshot for science, Mom.
Write it down and it's fine.
Write it down and it's science. Well, Floria, how can we find you? How can we follow your adventures in Bug World? Do you have any social media presence you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, so actually we're on Blue Sky. My actual name is Avispa. I can provide that information so you can add it, but Avispa means wasp in Spanish. Oh. Avispa tica, which means Costa Rican wasp. That's kind of my handle. And we also have our website, of course, where at the University of Rochester, if you just put, usually our hashtag is Team Wasp.
Nice.
And you can actually find us. And if anybody's interested in reaching out and knowing more about these, please let us know.
And are you taking more undergrads this semester or grad students?
We are always interested in potential applicants. So anybody who is interested in understanding mechanisms underlying parasitic manipulation by these cool insects, I would encourage them to reach out to me and to our group.
Awesome. We will put all your contact info in the show notes, so listeners who are interested can get to know you and reach out. This has been so cool, Floria. Thank you so much for coming on the show. This is awesome.
Kelly, you're only, 5 hours away from her? Get in the car. Get over there.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And I really appreciate the initiative that you have in making people aware how amazing insects are. So I thank both of you too. And of course, Derek.
Thank you.
Well, as always, you can find us on Reddit, Blue Sky, Instagram. Follow us all those places. I don't know why we say this every time because it's in the credit thing.
Well, it's fine.
And yeah, I say it every time. It's a good way to leave, I guess.
Yeah, say it. Send us the email. We love listener emails. Are very fun.
We love a listener email.
Yes. Oh, a shout out to my buddy Horatio. Happy birthday! One of my only buddies who listens to the podcast. It's all strangers. Love you guys.
All right. We love you. Goodbye. Bugs Need Heroes was created by Derek Conrad and Kelly Zimmerman. Hosted by Amanda Allen Niday and Kelly Zimmerman. Bugs Need Heroes is produced and edited by Derek Conrad with some assistance from Chelsea Bodden and a few cats. Character art is by Amanda Allen Niday. Our music is Ladybug Castle by Roll Music. Got a bug question? Email us at bugsneedheroes@gmail.com. Check us out at bugsneedheroes.com, and most of the socials are under Bugs Need Heroes. Thanks for stopping by.
We're still recording.
Oh no.
Oh, we are? Darn it. I unmuted my mic and that was